So before we start, just want to some quick housekeeping here for our self inventory. Remember what it was like as the year was ending and how excited you were for how that crazy year of 2020 to be over. Remember that feeling and how present you were to your goals, your ambitions, and who you wanted to be. Now, my job is to constantly remind you of who that person really is. Are you that person? Are you taking those actions? Are you looking at your business plan? Are you doing your 10-minute business plan every day? And if you are doing it, it's great. If you're not doing it, ask yourself, what is stopping you? See, I said for those of you who are joining us after we did our business planning, one of the promises that I made to the group was, I'm never going to let you forget your business plans. It's not going to be the year that you write a bunch of stuff down and don't do it. So a couple weeks in, take some self-inventory, ask yourself these three questions. What income producing tasks am I doing every day? What distractions got in the way, and what will I do differently? If you answer those three questions at the end of every day, read them the following morning before you start your work, you will continue to be more productive. So I just wanted to share that with you and let everyone take a moment of just to kind of see where they all are. So today we're going to talk about, David and I are going to talk about conversations through collections. So David, just introduce yourself quickly if some people in the group have not met you before.
Hello, everybody. For those of you who are new, welcome. My name is David Severance. I'm one of the coaches here at Chirag Shah Coaching. I've worked with businesses all around the world, real estate businesses, non-real estate businesses, big companies and small, startups and established. And I'm really looking forward to getting to know you.
Thank you, David. So can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Thumbs up. Thank you, Heidi. Heidi, you're always a yes. I appreciate that about you. So today we're going to talk about conversations. Oops, look at this. I'm so excited. Conversations through collections. Just hit yes in the chat box if you've used collections before.
Yes, yes, yes. 3 yeses, 4, 5, 6, a few times. No, yes, yes, no, yes, yes. Yes, yes. So it seems like most people.
So collections obviously is one of my favorite Compass tools. And like many Compass tools, they have multi-purposes, right? For us, it's identifying the different ways we could use them and ideally create a unique experience for any buyer or any seller. Ask yourself this question. David, go ahead. You can read it off to the group.
Has there ever been a time you have lost something important through communicating via email, text, or phone? We're talking about a miscommunication here, a non-communication, something where the message was lost or perverted somehow.
Hit yes. I'm gonna be the first one to hit yes. I can't type.
Yes. I see one nope from Diane.
Yes. Diane, they always say there's an exception to every rule. So Diane, today you're it.
Always right. Through texting. Sure. Yes, yes, yes.
It's amazing, right? Yep. Like in real estate, there's so many, it's like that meme that they post on social media or like that GIF or whatever you want to call it. It's like, this is what people think I do. This is what other people think I do. This is what I actually do. This is what the reality of it is. And like, you start thinking about it, right? It's like when they think you're working with somebody buying a home, what they don't realize is you get a ping, a ding, and a ring. Hey, I saw this property. You look at your phone in a text message. It's a random link to Redfin or Realtor.com or Zillow or somewhere else, and an email with this stuff. The husband's sending you stuff. The wife is sending you stuff. And then if you have mother-in-laws, right? Like, you know, I could raise my hand, right? Has anyone ever had a parent be part of the process? That always adds another level of challenge, right? And everything's getting lost. And if something goes wrong because somebody sent you something, who do they blame? You, the real estate agent. It's never their fault, right? Like, why should any other human being have any accountability for being organized in the information that they share? So really, there are 3 main benefits of collections: unified conversation, an ability to add value, and the third and favorite one is flat out just getting more business. Compass Collections is something that creates a both unique experience for buyers and sellers and can help you grow your business. So let's start talking about one conversation. David, share a little bit, like from a leadership perspective, what happens even as people when we're all in a different conversation? What are all the things that can go wrong?
Well, what typically happens is we come into the conversation with a different mindset or a different set of data in our minds that we're not even thinking about. We may not think that the person is in a different place in the world than we are. We're not talking geographically, we're talking about mentally or emotionally. And so we're going to share whatever information makes sense to us, and they're going to hear that through the filter of their own experience or knowledge or whatever's on their mind. And of course, the assumption that we make is message sent equals message received. And if we step back for a minute and think about it, we know that that's often not the case. Very often, the fact that we're sending information perhaps in an incomplete way, or perhaps at a time where the person's not in a position to hear it, and whatever filters they might be listening through, certainly puts us at a disadvantage. And we have to work carefully to make sure that the message we send is the message that is received. We're having the same conversation.
And so for today, David is going to be the client, right? So David will be a client, and we're just going to kind of go through this. David's bought a home before in his life, right? So David, do you want an experience where you, your wife, we'll say your mother-in-law is part of this, right? Because for a lot of people that are working first-time buyers, there is an in-law or another person that's generally part of it, right? So David, would you prefer to communicate through a lot of different places, or would it be helpful for you to have everything in one place where you, your wife, and your mother-in-law could have one conversation with us?
Absolutely, one person. When I think of the complexity of situations in my life, like buying a house or going through the medical field to deal with my father who's going through some health things, it's so much easier to have one person that I know I can communicate with.
David, would it make it more efficient and beneficial for you if this stuff was organized in one place, right? So say, that house that we looked at 500 Stanford Avenue that you guys really liked. I remember you had some thoughts, your wife had some thoughts, your mother-in-law couldn't come and she wanted to hear your feedback because I so you FaceTiming on the phone. Would it be nice if we organized this where all of our conversation for the property was under one place where we all could see it and we could be part of it together?
Yes, there's so many parts of the long-term conversation. Some of them are verbal, some of them are via email, some of them are in the form of like a handout of a listing or something like that. And we take notes. And so all this stuff is kind of floating around, and it's hard to keep it organized.
So it would be beneficial for you.
Absolutely.
And look, David, I know you've been sending us some links from when we originally met, some from Zillow, some from Redfin, but the reality is you could see, like, it sounds like you want a different type of experience. And one of the main benefits of working with myself and Compass is that we have our own technology that we built, right? Our collections were built on creating the optimal experience for buyers. And we know our job is also to track, converse, communicate. And if we don't do it in one place, we find it becomes a lot more onerous on our clients and things generally get missed.
It's much easier for me to have one place that I know that I can go to get what I need and not have to hunt around for it.
Got it. One conversation. So before we pit stop over to the next area, I want one person who is a Compass Collections power user, meaning you use it all the time, your clients love it, it's part of every conversation you have. I want you to just unmute yourself and share with the group how you're sharing it with clients.
I use it all the time. This is Amber.
Oh, good morning on the West Coast. You're early riser.
It
How do
is
you use it,
very
Amber?
early.
So if I was your buyer,
Um,
David and I are your buyers, how would you share with us to use it?
Yeah, so what I call it is a curated Compass collection, which is a home search similar to what you're using elsewhere on Zillow or Redfin or something like that, which are great search tools. But it actually brings the experience together with me and with all of the other people that are important to the conversation. And it allows us to favorite, comment, and keep everything in one cohesive place so that we're actually working together towards finding everything. And I always set it up as, I'm going to put you into this really exciting Compass collection search that's directly connected with me because I have a lot of opportunities that are not on the market yet, that are coming soon or only within the Compass network. And I'm able to share those with you in that format.
Guys hear the golden nugget there at the end? There's a lot of exciting opportunities I have to off the market properties that aren't there yet, and I will share them with you there. If a buyer thinks it's the only place they're going to get them there and they can't get them anywhere else, thank you, Amber, that was great. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to want to go there, right? So think about this. What I want every single person to do between this week and next week is write down, how are you going to position this? So David, you not being a real estate junkie like the rest of us, how would you share something like this if you were saying it to me?
Well, for me to share it with a client, what I would say is what's most valuable for most clients, and tell me if this is true for you, is having time used successfully and efficiently for this process. You have a lot of different things in your life. This is a big process. It's a complex one. And part of my goal is to make it simple and time efficient for you. Would that be useful to you? Hopefully the client says yes. If the client says yes, then I would add something along the lines of what Amber said. Here's a tool that you can use that's going to be easy for you to use. It's going to give you all the information you need in one place. You don't have to worry about whether you have to find me or not. You can get the information you need. You can leave a message for me at any time. I check the messages all the time, so I'll get back to you shortly. Yes, I have clients, but this makes it very easy for me to respond to you like you are my only client. Something like that.
Can make me respond to you like you're my only client. Another great nugget. Adding value. I'm a great adult student. I don't know if I was the best student as a kid, but there's one thing I remembered growing up. I remember in science class, the science teacher talking about observations and inferences. And they asked, remember her asking, what's more important, an observation or an inference? First thing I'm thinking, I'm like, what the heck's an observation and inference? Well, an observation is something you see in an experiment, right? Versus the inferences is what you've concluded after the experiment. Most people said observations. I raised my hand and I said inference. And she says, well, why are you saying inference? I was like, who cares about what the experiment is? Aren't they doing the experiment to find something out, right? It's like getting to the end result quicker. And that's really the same thing that you can do here, right? Like the example I use all the time, it's like, look, if you're going to do Facebook Live videos through a house, and you like have the screen flipped around and you're like, okay, guys, we're in the kitchen. Like, yeah, they see the countertops, the cabinet, and the fridge. Like, no, you're in the kitchen, right? Like they could tell that. Don't tell people what they already know, right? Use inferences. This is a place that you can add value to both buyers and sellers. So David, I'm your realtor and we're in a collection now, right? We've gone into this actual phase. What are things that you feel would add value to you and your wife that an agent could share with you?
Well, of course, there's the there's the stuff that I need to know, which is pricing, size of the house, acreage, all that stuff that I want to know in terms of data. But what I'd like to know is what you tell me beyond that, or what does the data tell you? What's the thing that I can't see or I don't know because I'm not in the field like you are?
So everyone put one thing here, and now we could have a collaborative list for everyone to get some ideas. What's one thing that you could tell a buyer in a collection that they couldn't read on the internet themselves, right? Because remember, that's the name of the game now. The internet's given so much data. We have to continue to build our value throughout the transaction. So especially in busy markets and people are like, oh, why can't I go to the listing agent, right? These are different conversations to have. So I'll kick it off by saying this. Buyers, if you do a good job listening to them, there's certain layouts, there's certain filters, there's certain tax things, there's certain little micro things that David and his wife would tell me that I would know, right? I'll give you an example. If they wanted a very specific style layout, and maybe the houses weren't filtered by layout because they had some openings, I could say, well, this house is like this, but based on your layout, these are the pros based on what you guys like, and this is a potential con, but based on the houses we viewed, this is something I still feel that's worth looking at, and here's why, right? You could just write this there instead of putting this all in like text messages and emails and phone calls, right? Like there are all these different ways, and at least if it's in one place, they can see you doing something. So David, what are other people adding in the chat box about different ways they can add value?
Number of things. View or value of location of the property. If there's a flip tax, if it's a co-op. Provide SD. In Houston, whether it's been flooded or not. And finally, streamlined communication that allows specific notes per listing in collection. Oh, here's a couple more. Basement area, additional village taxes. The pictures look good, but does it really need work? Are they in a flood zone? Lots of information here. If it's a co-op or an apartment building, how do they feel about pets? Those kinds of things. So many things can be put into here.
And there's the, in the MLS sheets, they have all those agent only remarks, right? The agents will really tell you what the dirt is on the house in those agent only remarks, only accepting as is, has a judge, whatever it is, right? The things that they don't want to disclose, right? They don't want to disclose. So look, guys, take a snapshot and realize this is part of your list. This is part of your experience. So like if David's my client and I'm obsessing over the opportunity of working with them, what is the experience that I'm really looking to create for David, right? And how are you going to create that through collections? Now sellers, right? Sellers is, I almost borderline think is good of a use, maybe even a little better in some senses, right? Because, with sellers, they can track everything in the market, David. So like if now you could flip your hat on and I'm selling your house with your wife and you guys are moving, let's say to Arizona where those rock mountains are that we'll go climb when it's nice out. What would you want to know after we listed your house about the market, right? Like what would be important to you on an ongoing basis?
Well, I'd want to know where is the market going? In other words, is it becoming more competitive compared to my offering or less? Are people getting more interested in what my house has to offer or less? Is there some kind of changes there? Because I don't track it every day like the agent does. So I want to make sure how my standing as an offering is either becoming more attractive or less attractive to potential people out there.
Remember, guys, inferences. Another property came on the market. Hey, Amber, by the way, this home's in your subdivision. It is currently listed at $25,000 less as an updated kitchen and an updated bath. We should talk about this immediately. Hey, David, this house is going to help sell yours, right? Like it's overpriced. Make sure you add the context.
I'd love to hear that, especially if it means that my agent is going to ask me to adjust my price. For my agent to call me up and say, hey, David, we're going to have to drop your price 50,000. It kind of comes out of the blue. For me to be able to have some kind of heads up about what's happening in the marketplace, seeing how things are changing, makes it a little bit easier for me to decide maybe at the last point that that's where I have to go.
Look, guys, this is keeping in constant contact with them. The system works for you. We've heard from agents, sometimes their client gets a notification of a price drop and the client's contacting them, hey, Heidi, we need to drop our price, right? We saw the Joneses down the street did. And here's a couple different ways of adding value throughout the conversation, right? And David touched upon this, and I want to talk a little more about this. The value of efficiency and time. A lot of us are converting open house buyers, in the areas they still could do open houses, or converting online leads. And coming at the client through this concept of how you will save them time and make a process more efficient is part of a value proposition of why use a realtor versus surf the internet randomly on your own. So as a buyer, David, we touched upon this too, and same thing as the seller. If you were selling me the efficiency of time, do you have any out of the box ideas that you want to share?
Well, I don't know if it's out of the box or not, but from my point of view, helping someone be efficient means helping them work and communicate the way that works best for them. And these days, everybody has a phone, everybody has email, everybody has texting, but not everybody has collections like this. And this is another fourth way of staying in contact with somebody that nobody else has in the same way. And for clients who this works for, from my point of view, that's a no-brainer. It's a real value add.
And there is your unique value proposition, right? This is a different way of communicating that we can offer you that will make the home buying experience more efficient, will save you time, and allow us to collaborate in one place. There's your pitch. and making the decision simpler for clients. The more information you can provide, the more simple it can be. And the reality is a lot of people are looking at a lot of properties at times and they can't keep track of all this information, right? Like you can go on your mobile app and they can literally in their collection, they can leave feedback for every home. It's a way for tracking it. How would you say this would make the decision simpler for you, David?
For me, it's about eliminating the extraneous or not so useful information. There's so much information, and sorting through it and keeping hold of the stuff that really matters the most is what's important to me from an efficiency and a decision-making point of view. And so if I've looked at 50 different houses with an agent, either online or in person or whatever, but the ones that I'm not so interested in are there, but like maybe they're further down or kind of I can access them if they need to, but otherwise they're not cluttering up anything, that's a no-brainer for me. If it comes down to always keeping the 5 best options on top for buying a house, for example, it makes it very easy for me to make that decision. I know the other information's there, but it's not getting in my way of the decision I have to make.
So a lot of this, as you could hear from David too, is how are you using this, right? How are you telling people to use this? The amazing thing is we can all be on the same tool. We could all be in the same place and all have a different experience. It's very much like what the world is today. We're all living in the world, but they're two very distinct different points of view, right? So when somebody's in any of these tools, there's so many different ways to use them. There's so many different ways to talk about them. There's so many different experiences people can have. As you could see, I could walk somebody through one experience through collection. Amber could do a different one. Cindy and Carolina could have 2 completely different ones, and all of our clients can be happy in different ways. So when you guys go back to your accountability groups, I would have this conversation too of how are you guys using this and what are the benefits, and make master pitches for yourselves. Learn from other people's learnings. And the last one is using it to get more business, right? Like we talked about the concept of, using it at open houses, different communication thing, marketing to previous clients. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. And so we have a little more of a conversation here. So I think for all of us, right, what I want to get through is the big picture concept is I'm going to go back to Zillow for a hot New York minute here, in the sense of one of the main ways that Zillow got so many people to their site was the Zestimate. This whole concept of I can go somewhere and find out my home's value and know what's going on in my neighborhood. How many, yes, Diane, 2 thumbs down on Zillow. How many people here have a search set up for their clients after they bought a home to let them know what's going on in their neighborhood? How many people? Hit yes in the box if you are. 1. No. No. Yes. Yes. No. So we've mixed, right? So the first question is, if it's a no, Jody, the answer should be yes, right? Look, we're living through times of economic change, certainty, and uncertainty, right? So it's a good time if you're looking for a way to reconnect with everyone. You can call people up and say, "Hey, David, how are you? How's it going? Would it be helpful if I just created a collection for you, which is nothing more than just a group of homes specific to your neighborhood, so you can just keep track of the market?" And David would say,
Absolutely. I just want to know what's going on. And if it's easy, I'm in.
Sure. And look, David, most people, the reality is don't want to call a real estate agent unless they really need something related to a house or the market. The nice part is there's a comments area. So if you ever have a question, you can just put the comment in. It's a very easy way for me to just continue to add value and just answer your real estate questions. Would that be helpful?
Absolutely. One thing that I like about it is I can access it when I want to. I don't have to get a phone call from somebody checking in with me at a time that may be convenient for him or her, but maybe not for me.
You see how that works, right? Like how I can continue to answer your real estate questions, right? So look, a lot of us get in this weird place where we go from being the real estate agent to either some people get in the friend zone, right? Like they become their friends and then they don't think of them as business people. Other people just ghost them and they don't talk to them at all. And then there's that weird group in the middle that sometimes calls, sometimes don't. It's still like really an undefined relationship. One, you want to continue the relationship. But two, you want to also keep the business part alive and have them understand that this is part of your business. You're actively still working in the market. This is something that's multi-dimensional when you do this after, right? And look, you're going to get alerts and stuff like that too. So sometimes if you see something that's really interesting, every now and then you should go and comment on it so they know that you're still part of looking at their best investment. David?
Yeah, a comment like that from time to time lets me know you're keeping an eye on it. It's not just on autopilot. And in any long-term relationship, there tend to be gaps between the communications, and each relationship has an appropriate, let's say, gap period, depending on how close you are with the person or whether you're working on business together or it's a personal relationship or whatever. And people may not expect frequent communication from you. That's okay. But there's a huge difference between the client knowing he or she is still keeping an eye out for me, and I don't know what they're doing in their life. Maybe they never think of me at all.
Exactly. So how many people are going to reach out to five? Listen, start reaching out to one client a day. Start with one. If you want to be ambitious, start at five, right? Still should be contacting five people, but who's going to start contacting some of their clients to set them up on collections? Good. We have a few takers.
Shrag, I have a question.
Yep.
Hi, it's Fran. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. So I know the coming soon was mentioned, and that seems to be a big deal lately. I'm using the collections, and it's actually really working great. But the coming soon on MLS, if we put a coming soon on, we have to put it on the market like within the next, I think it's 24 or 48 hours. So how is Compass using coming soon on these off-market properties? Because I have a lot of them, and I'm confused of how to.
So they do private exclusive, right? So private exclusive, there is a form in most local MLSs that you could get signed that says, they make you sign it that says the owner doesn't want their property on the MLS, right? So you can say that, look, you can sign this form. It's generally you pay for, I know where you are in one key, you pay $50. You can start off as a private exclusive, and then you can go to a coming soon. Compass coming soon is internal to the brokerage, so it doesn't have to go to the MLS. Amber, that's a private exclusive. That's that private exclusive is, it seems like what Compass came out as a result of these new coming soon laws, right? So you can go, Fran, from private exclusive, everybody.
Even if you don't have
coming
paperwork on it. Like I don't have paperwork on a couple of houses. They're just open listings. So they're like off-market houses. Is there any way to get that on that collection?
No, I don't think so. I'd ask your sales manager about that
Okay.
though, in more detail.
Okay.
Diane, we were talking about gifting this week. Thank you. I just want you, Diane had an experience she was worth sharing with everyone about sending flowers. Go ahead, Diane.
Yes, Shrag suggested this, about 3 months ago, I think, when our conversation. And I sent flowers to clients that had purchased a house a year ago yesterday. It was $175 to send because I was going to deliver them and I just couldn't get there. But the other thing, even when I looked at, almost $200, I also have a listing that he's selling on top of it. So I looked at the value of the fact that currently I have another listing I have to sell for them, along with I'm thanking them or saying happy anniversary for their house that they purchased a year ago. And I got texts from both of them separately, hi, gorgeous, thank you so much, blah, blah, blah. It was it was well worth every dime I spent on it, and I did get response from it. And I think with anything, that's what you want, is some sort of gratification because you spent time and money to do something.
Look, everyone, I'll leave you guys with this note. Thank you for sharing that. Continue to be thoughtful. Think of these words: curating their experience, right? Like, what experience you want, I'm going to use David, to have. And have you guys really ever thought about it this way, right? Like before, during, and after. Those are three parts of a transaction, right? Like before they find the house, while they find the house, after they find the house, before they sell the house, while it's on the market, after it's sold. What are you guys really doing? And that's what I want you guys to think about. David?
I love Diane's example because it's actually a form of communication. And if that's the response that she got, what it is a form of communication that really worked for the client. There's nothing more important than your ability to develop your ways of communicating with your client in a way that works for them, that adds value to them. Collections is part of that, texting is part of that, telephone, all these things are part of that, and even sending flowers. So congratulations, Diane, and everyone. Give careful, intentional thought to how you're communicating with everybody. Make it work for them and make it be of value.
And as they say in Disney, that's all, folks. So we'll see you guys back here on Monday. If you're new to the group and you need an accountability group or you'd like a role-playing group, email Rachel, Rachel at ChiragShahCoaching.com, and she will get you guys into a group. Thank you guys for sharing all your wins, your successes, and the investment of time you've made with us here with us today. So have a great weekend, guys. I hope you sell a lot of houses.
See you next week.